Uniform and equipment, so what you'll be expected to wear for each, I guess, specific competition. So if that happens to be your blue referee shirt, and I guess say for our Div 1 fixtures where you are required to wear long white pants and white shoes. So all of that will be outlined within this referee handbook. And also the final part of that is just some general information and documentation for everyone to have their heads around. So in terms of becoming a referee, sort of includes your prerequisites and member protection information officer stuff as well. So just who you can go to if there are any issues, if it's us as Water Polo New South Wales, if it's the club involved, just these little things which are important to us in these situations. Okay, jump across the next slide, Scott. Okay, so to find not just the referee handbook, but all the resources, this has now been moved to the Water Polo New South Wales Referees Club page. So how to find that initially is if you sign into the Water Polo New South Wales website, so just the stock standard one, head down to Info Hub, and then select Water Polo New South Wales Referees Club. So until we get the clicks up and it starts showing up in Google search, this will be the easiest way to find it. So you'll find, yeah, Water Polo New South Wales rules, the updated FINA, interpretations, the judiciary, updated judiciary, which Gotti will be going over later. And probably the other important thing is the registration. Now, I don't have a slide of that, but after the rollover from September 1, you'll be able to go to this website, click on registration, and sign up. So at the moment, it costs $0. I'm hoping it stays that way, but we'll keep you updated on that one. Okay, moving on. Thanks, everyone.
I'm just moving on to the updated appointment process now. So moving forward, we're going to be sending out an availability sheet on the Friday, along with all the other, rosters for the weekend and things like that. But for the availability sheet, we'd like it to go out. We'd like to receive it back on Monday morning or over the weekend, just with your availability for the next weekend kind of thing. Just with that, it won't be. We unfortunately can't afford to put you exactly where you want to be each weekend, but we'll do our best to take it into consideration each time. Here's a bit of a timeline, I guess, of our week doing the rosters. Yeah, so basically on the Monday, I'll be sending out the live link for our referee roster for that weekend. And each time for like Tuesday and Wednesday, I'll send out an updated, an email letting you know that it's been updated for Tuesday, Wednesday nights, and then each time Monday through to Friday, I'll be sending out alerts. But but basically the idea behind it was that I don't need to be following up on availabilities. You can update it yourself through the live sheet. So you can get updated through the live sheet each time, and if there's any changes, last minute changes, or anything like that, coming forward to the weekend, you're able to update it. You're able to check the updates. And the new rosters that need to be sent out each time, which is the idea of it, I guess. This is what the roster will look the same. Will be laid out the same, but basically, just in the referee 1 comments will be Water Polo South referee 1, and you can comment any discrepancies or anything like that. Sorry, not discrepancies. Conflicts you have within that game, like if your sister's playing and we're not aware of it and we put you on that game, you can let us know in that. Or if you're good to go with that allocation, you can tick it off. And this is what the availability sheet will look like that we'll send out. This will be live as well. So basically, you just, as you can see here, Tracy's put 7 to 8 p.m. at Sutherland for Tuesday night, and then Wednesday 8 to 9 at Des Moines. But yeah, basically we just need to update that throughout the week. Over the weekend, and let us have it in by Monday morning for to be confirmed. And as I said before, we'll take it into account, but we can't guarantee that you'll get exactly that you'll get those allocations exactly. Alex, would you like to take us through the judiciary update?
Sure. Okay. Scott, if you hit the next slide. So we're all aware the judiciary exists, but I just want to draw your attention to some changes that have happened. This is now reflected in the Judiciary Tribunal policy, which is available on our website. So once this is live, you'll be able to click the link here and bring you to the policy. It is a long document, but what it does do So what it does do is it explains step by step what happens. Now, this isn't something you need to know in depth because it's more for clubs and the athletes who are having to go through the judicial process, what it is about the time frame they expect, how to lodge appeals, what the onus of proof is. But a key part for us is the updated table of offences. And I say us as referees. All right. We'll get there. So with that said, the judiciary comes into play, obviously, when a referee gives a red card, whether that's to a coach, a player, or a spectator. If you give a red card, it is very important that you complete a referee report. We need to know here in the office what's happened, where it's happened, and who was involved, so that we can then take it through the right procedure. The more detail it is, the better it is for us and the better it is for the tribunal. It's a pain that really slows down the process when we see a note of a red card that happened during a game, but there's no further detail, and we're having to call up and email and pester referees to try and find out what the actual incident was, and half the time detail has been forgotten over the next few days. So very important, if you give a red card, you need to complete a referee report. Scott, if you click the mouse, we'll get that. I've lost my percentage. So how to submit a report. Oh, no, go back. Back. Back again. Thank you. So the template for a referee report is available on the club info hub, and you just need to fill it out. It's a Word document that you can download onto your phone or computer. If you need to, fill it out and submit it to the competitions. Further to that, if you can't download the report, you can just type up in a text or in an email and send through the details of what happened, who was involved, where it happened, as much as you can, and send it through. And at very least, you can write what happened in as much detail as possible on the back of the scorecard. If you do this, please send an email or a text to myself, Stephen, or Scott to let us know a red card has occurred, so we can keep an eye out for this card and for the information to be able to process it nice and quickly. Yeah, links to the template are there on that slide, which will be made available after this. So going to the next slide there, Scott. This is a screenshot of what that report looks like and the detail that is provided. We won't run through it now. There's more important rules, I think, that we'll get to later on than filling out these reports. If you do have any issues, there's always a staff member who will be available during competition time that you can get in touch with via phone to ask for help. Don't feel like you can't ask questions of us, and we're not there to support you. We are here to help, and we don't want this process to feel like you shouldn't be giving red cards because of the extra work that has to be done through it. Red cards exist. They're a tool for you to use so that you can control a game and make sure that we aren't letting games get to positions where people are getting hurt and we're having to stop them. So don't be scared to use your red card under the right circumstances, but please remember, if you do, we need to fill out this report. So the next slide is a grab from the Judiciary Table of Offences. So this is available as part of the Judiciary policy that you saw linked earlier. What this does is, I think, give us a better understanding of what grade to give to each offence. It also allows the Judiciary Tribunal to assign the most appropriate points to the offence, whether it be a first-time offender or a subsequent offender. What it also links in is the letters represent additional sanctions that can be applied on top of the points. I haven't gone into detail there because that's something that is decided by the Judiciary Panel and not by referees. Your job when filling out the report is to have a look at the offence and match it to the appropriate grading. If you do have any questions on that, please type them in now before we move on. Looking good. Okay. If you do have questions, we can come back to it afterwards. So just in a brief summary, our judiciary process has updated to reflect, I guess, where our competitions are at currently. It's not something you need to know in depth. What you need to know is that if you do give a red card, you need to fill out the corresponding referee report so the right information can come through to the office so that we can get the process started quickly and make sure it's fair for everyone involved. I guess the only other thing to add to it, and this is more relevant for if you provide not enough detail in the report, you may be called up as a witness in the judiciary trial to recount the event and answer any questions the tribunal have. But if you give a nice detailed report, that quite often doesn't need to happen because all the answers are there in your report. What happens if you want to retract a red card? That is possible if you submitted a report and written down red card on a game. You can contact the office afterwards and let us know that you'd like to retract that or change the grading. We can do that before the tribunal gets in place. We don't start tribunals until 5 days after the red card was given. That's time to then gather the information, provide the summons and notice to those involved. So there is a period to be able to correct anything that you may think is wrong or changed on reflection. And points, so 100 points is 1 round suspension. And that means if it's an under 14 kid who also plays in the under 16s, they will receive that suspension for a whole round across any grade that they are playing in. So for every 100 points is 1 round suspension. And I think that's all. Okay, thank you, Scott.
So now we'll be moving on to refereeing pathway and opportunities for the future. As Stephen mentioned before, this still hasn't been 100% confirmed as to when we'll be opening this up, but and also how many people will be accepting into this when the application's open. Basically, as you can see here, this is our refereeing I guess, timeline from community referee to advanced ref, and it shows the games that that I guess we'll be offering to these shirts, to these level referees, and also what the process is of gaining these qualifications, and what parts in the learning pool you need to be into. And yeah, basically these are the refereeing opportunities that we'll be offering moving forward, such as like SCP training games on Friday nights, which will be a really good opportunity for assessments and things like that. Regional training games, and also regional finals in SCP training, SCP Academy as well. And basically all these will be offered to our pathway referees moving forward once we can confirm what exactly we'll be doing with, it's not exactly what we'll be doing, sorry, when we will be accepting people into this. But you know, we'll be offering these events to people moving forward. Yeah, we'll be offering these events to people moving forward, and at the moment we are unsure of how many we'll be accepting, as well as when it will be open to apply for this as well. But yeah, we'll move on to the new rules section, and Andrew, Michael, and Nick, if he's joined, will give you the run through on this. This is our agenda for the new rules section. Yeah, you guys can.
So, I don't know, Andrew, what do we want to do? How do we want to treat this?
Yeah. Lead away, sir.
Okay. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to break the game down into a few separate areas, just to try. I think it's very important as young referees or referees trying to succeed, is to more or less be able to preempt what's going to take part in front of you. If you're just looking at it like a video, you're going to get yourself into trouble. Like Andrew and myself have been refereeing for a long, long time, and I'm sure Andrew will agree that if he's got to make a decision out of maybe 6 options, his chances are pretty low of getting the right one. So I've always tried to look at the game in a way that I'm looking what's going on in the game, so I kind of understand what's happening in the water and what a team's trying to achieve in attack and defence. So what you've got to be able to do is look at the body position of the players, the position of the ball, all the sort of things that come into it, and try and predict in your own mind what the possible outcomes are. And if I can break this down to 2 or 3 options, my chances of getting it right are a lot better than picking 1 out of 6. So you really do need to know what the skills of a centre forward are, or the skills of a centre back. It's not just a video. You've got to concentrate and work on learning what these people can do. And if you can do that, you're cutting the number of options, so the chances of getting it right are better. And in a situation like this, is a penalty situation, and we've all been a little bit shell-shocked by these rules where if an attacker is in position and is trying to make a shot, no matter what happens, it's likely that a penalty is going to be given away. They've backed down on it a little bit at international level, and saying if a guy or a player, or a male or female, is trying to play for the 5 metre, or the 6 metre, sorry, the answer is not to be given. We don't give them the foul. They've got to be attempting to make the shot. So what went in this is the situation we're in 2 years ago. it was tried to make black and white, but the people with the power have decided the black and white was too difficult. And what was happening, there were too many penalties. So it's gone back to what it was nearly 2 years ago, with the exception body position has become a lot more important. And it is a little bit easier still to make that decision whether it's penalty or not. But the major thing is that has changed a lot since they changed it, is that you cannot then call back and give a guy a penalty if he misses. If the shot goes, it either goes in or it misses. Simple as that, and it's play on. And you deal with what situation happens after it. I don't know, Andrew, have you got anything else to add to that?
No, that's an accurate statement.
Just maybe positions in front of goals or something like that?
Yeah.
And they've got to be driving straight towards goals, not so much on an angle, be inside the posts.
So FINA's now basically specified that for it to be a penalty, the attacking players have to be within about a metre wide maximum of the goalposts and in front of the goals. So any more than that, it shouldn't be a penalty. All the way out to the 6 metre line. Now they don't make a mark to help us, but you've got to be able to judge. I think the thing is with this and most of the rules, and it's something Michael has been saying for as long as I've been refereeing, is don't overthink it. Call what you see, but understand what the rules are trying to attain at the end result. But don't overthink, because the more you overthink it, the more you're likely to get it wrong. In any of the rules we discussed tonight, but particularly the penalty rule. Yeah.
Would you like me to move on to the videos that we've got for the?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
And just maybe hesitate after each one, Scott. We'll take it one by one. Because we have to wait for him to type a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Jesus.
So I can start with this one, Michael. This one was an early interpretation of the rule. The actual referee called a penalty on this, but it's actually an incorrect penalty call, simply because there's a defender
in front of the goal,
clearly between the goal and the attacking player. This is now what not to call, but when it first came in, people were unsure of the rule, but it's now a prime example of this is not a penalty. Clearly not a penalty. There is a defender between the attacking player and the goal, and the new rule, which is a rule, doesn't apply. So in this situation, it's play on now.
Happy for me to move on to the next one.
Yes, please, Scott.
Just, can I add one thing, Andrew? As a younger referee or developing referee, you've got to have the ability to be able to see this happening. And this comes into what I said before, is as soon as that player goes in and is between the attacking player and the goalkeeper, what should you think? Straight away, it should come into your mind, penalty's not an option.
Yeah.
Right? So it makes it easy when you're dealing with a decision out of one. Everyone's pretty good at that, so you should get it right. So you've got to watch the play. You've got to know what's going on. And if you see that defender go in there, that cuts out the option of a penalty. So it's either play on or maybe a major foul, depending what results. But you've got to be ahead of the game. Okay.
So as you can
Cross
see,
okay for everyone on that one.
yep. So as you can see on that one, it's quite clearly the correct penalty call was made. The attacking player was grabbed from behind in a perfect opportunity to score, and that foul has prevented a probable goal. So it is the correct decision. And you'll see some that are very clear in games like that you should be automatic calling it straight away.
But before that happens, what's your first observation? The guy's going to make the cross pass. Is the pass good? The second the ball leaves the hand of that player on the wing, you know if it's good or not. Your then attention switches to the centre forward or the driver. You've got to make another decision then. Is he in position? Is his timing good? Is the player behind fouling? Answer was yes, it is a penalty. But you've got to be watching what's going on and going through the thought process continuously in order to make the correct decision. Maybe, Scott, do you reckon they can open their microphones if they have a question on these? Because otherwise it's going to stagnate very quickly.
Yeah, no, I'm happy
It's
for
up
that
to
one.
you.
Yeah, you know, that's fine with me.
So I can do this one, Michael. I've interpreted the WWR released description of what's happening on a counter foul, also known in Australia as an offensive foul or a contra foul. Referees need to think about the implications of awarding an offensive turnover or the contra foul. Namely, now that we play the ball from where it lies, it's an opportunity for a referee to give a goal or create an attacking situation that probably shouldn't be created. It's a very fine line. But when you're going to make that decision, you've got to think about, is that offensive foul going to create the counter-attack? And has the foul caused a disadvantage? And therefore you must give it. And you can slightly delay it to see what's happening where the ball is. So this usually happens on the perimeter. The ball might be in the center and there's a slight pull past or a grab from an attacking player. Has that created a disadvantage to the defending player? Has that player then received the ball and therefore created the advantage for themselves? And that needs to be part of your thought process. One of the big things with this rule is if you have a counterattack and a centre forward is very slow in defence coming up the pool, the then centre forward is now coming up the pool to defend, and you call a quick turnover, you've now created a one and none situation. And you've created that with a not understanding what's happening with the entire play. Now, if the turnover is absolutely has to be given, then you have to give it. And then that's the the attacking players created that by causing that turnover. But you've got to be aware of where everyone's sitting in the pool when you're going to call that turnover. Because creating that one on none or two on none counter-attack then causes a lot of problems for yourself and your colleague. It usually gets the coaches offside. And you're just trying to minimize that as well. So you got to think about the old days. There was this interpretation was, does the punishment fit the crime? Now, do we have to call that offensive turnover? Is it having a direct impact on the game at that point? And that's what we're trying to get at here. But again, the WWR description wasn't very clear. But that's the thought process you need to have with calling an offensive turnover. I'm sure we'll have some questions on that.
I'll just add one thing, Andrew. A turnover or a contra foul is the most confusing thing you can do in the game.
Yeah.
You've got to blow the insides out of that whistle. You've got to be a double whistle blast, and you've got to make sure that everyone in the complex knows that it's an offensive foul.
Yeah.
You know, it's very important. That's all I need to add.
Are you happy before we move on to the next slide?
Yes, please.
Yep.
Michael, you want to lead this one off?
Look, I just think, Andrew, it's not only just the a defending player trying to stop someone from gaining an advantage. It's how they do it. If they can do it skillfully and they turn and swim and take the player away, everything is good.
Yeah.
But if a player tries to drive past and all they do is put their arm out or move sideways and totally block them, or it happens also in attack when you get an attacking player trying to swim through a defender's head. We can't allow that.
Yeah.
So it's got to be, you've got to look at it as a one-on-one situation. Who is the most skillful? Is it the attacker or the defender? And if there's no skill on just grabbing someone or moving sideways and putting their hand in their face, and on the other flip side, there is no rule that says an attacker can swim straight into a defender's face, taking strokes. There's no skill in that. All he's going to do is rip someone's eye out. So it's skill we're looking for. The most skillful player should get the advantage. Simple as that.
I agree.
The key in preventing this one is also not ball watching. I think too often the attacking referee gets focused on where the ball is or getting it into centre, that they don't see the drivers having a go and getting impeded by the defenders there.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that also goes back to Scott, is that as a referee, you've got to be watching to see what the attacking team is trying to create. And if they're creating it properly and within the rules, they must be allowed to do it. If a defender is excellent and very skillful, well, maybe it will break down without any foul at all. But if it breaks down due to unskillful or ugly play, well, it's got to go. It's definitely an ejection.
Next, please, Scott. So playing the ball has become a big issue with the new rules, and it's very clear that you must be seen to release the ball, and particularly with that quick turnover, change of possession. If you're going to swim onto the ball, you've still got to play the ball. Now, the instructions from FINA have been to the referees. The attacking player can take 2 or 3 strokes. If they haven't played the ball, physically shown to play the ball, turn it over straight away. Don't let them swim halfway down the pool and then turn it over. 2 or 3 strokes. If they haven't played the ball visibly, turn it over. And it's very important that we as referees enforce that, but also coaches actually teach their players to do it as well. And it's important that the players get in the habit of, as soon as they've got that ball, they just throw it in the air and play it. So that everyone knows that they can do. Then they can swim on and do the other things that they want to do. So playing the ball hasn't changed. It's still got to be visibly left the hand.
Should we also note, Andrew, that's the most simple rule to get correct.
Yes. Because
it's visible above the water.
Yeah.
No referee should ever get that wrong.
No, exactly. Yeah. And with 2 referees on the field, you should at least, one of you should be getting it at least every time. And we've got some examples. So you can clearly see the player is fouled and then plays the ball very quickly. And it's the playing the ball is a signal for referee to lower their arm, which is obvious to then everyone that the player has played the ball. It's important for us to remember that once they've played the ball, to drop your arm as well from after the foul.
I think we've lost Scott as well, so I'm just going to bring up the presentation again and I'll share it through. I think he's dropped out. Give me a moment. Okay, hopefully that screen's showing up on the right-hand side, or am I showing the wrong one? Okay, there we go. We should be all good to go.
Cool. Up to the centre forward.
Okay, centre forward play. If you watch it like a video, it's the most difficult thing as a referee to get right. So we can see there a centre back is controlling a centre forward, and the ball's obviously approaching. You've got to wait and see whether that number 11 in the black cap has any influence or illegal influence on that centre forward. So that is probably not the time to make the decision, but the decision's fast approaching. So again, you've got to try in your mind to work out what are the reasonable outcomes in this situation. And to me, the centre forward will either get the ball cleanly and rotate and shoot. As the ball comes, the centre back will totally take the centre forward out, which is an ejection. The likelihood of the centre forward being turned over is fairly low, because according to the black girl's body position, or the girl in the black hat, I should say, I might get myself into trouble here, her body position suggesting that she's not being held at the moment.
Yeah.
All right, so realistically, you've got 2, maybe 3 things that can happen. The pass could be bad, and it would be a mistake by the attacking team, and it would be a defender's ball. The pass is perfect. The centre forward's got skill and will turn and shoot it. Maybe score, maybe not, but that doesn't matter. The shot's gone clear. So again, we're getting down to 2 or 3 options, or the centre back absolutely annihilates her and she gets sent out. So again, I can make a decision out of 3, especially if the ball doesn't get away at all because the centre forward's been monstered, it's an easy decision. The centre back goes out. But you've got to be in the frame of mind where you've got it summed up before it actually happens. And that's the secret of centre forward. As a referee, you've got to try and be totally consistent. And by making these options, you can become consistent. And if the centre back chooses to monster the centre forward and get sent out, so be it. And if the centre back knows that you're consistent and knows what decision you'll make if she drowns the centre forward, it's her choice. And you've got to remember that attacking and defending players in this situation will play to what they think the referee will make a decision. Good ones, I'm talking about good players, high-level players. They have their options as well. They're looking at what you do. And if you're consistent as a referee, they will learn to predict what you're going to call. And if you get to that situation where players can predict what you're going to call, you're doing a good job. You're consistent. Andrew, anything else?
No, I think most referees would agree that there's nothing better than a great feeling as soon as you start blowing the whistle that the centre back actually starts swimming out because they know they've been caught. I think one of the other things with the centre forward is that it's going to take a long time. You know, the best referee in the world, best referees in the world take hundreds of games to get centre forward, centre back 75, 80% right. You're not going to get it right 100% of the time, but you've got to try and use the techniques Michael's just discussed to make it so you can get a higher percentage right every time. And the other, And the other thing to remember is you can still award a ordinary foul in centre as well. It doesn't have to be an exclusion or play on or a penalty every time. There are times when an ordinary foul is the right call to make as well.
Andrew, can I just give an example?
Yes.
In Rio, in the first game that the Australian team played, and they played Brazil, so they were in big trouble right from the word go. George, the Greek, refereed the game. After the game, George came to me and Danny and said, "I'm sorry, gentlemen, I didn't realise how skillful Joe Kays was." In other words, he was given fouls too early and wasn't playing up to what the potential skills that Joe's got. And it upset George because what I said before, you need to study players, you need to know what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. And that's probably one of the top 3 referees in the world, not happy with his game because he hadn't done his homework. Right? So it is important.
Very much so.
Next one.
So anyone that watched the whistleblower on Monday night, they covered referee positioning in attack as well. Turnovers and counter-attacks are also very similar. Positioning is very important, as Danny and Phil covered on Monday night. Very, very important. You've got to give yourself the best opportunity to see everything that happens in a game. The whole pool. You've got to be able to see the whole pool, no matter where you are. And positioning is very important. And even working together, you still got to get everything. And there'll be times when you'll probably miss stuff individually, but together you need to get it. And the points here are very relevant.
That becomes a lot easier with experience as well.
Oh, absolutely. Next, please, Steve.
Okay, that's the last slide actually that we have for the referee rules section. So I guess if we've got any questions that we'd like to ask, feel free to speak up and take yourself off mute. If not, we'll pass you back to Scott because I believe he's back in the call now.
Yeah, sorry about that. My computer just, yeah, I'm not sure what happened. I just switched off halfway through the call.
Plug it in, Scott.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so thanks for that, Andrew and Michael, and Nick for joining in as well. You know, that was good. I hope everyone got a lot out of that because that was pretty good cover of the rules that we had from you guys. And I hope everyone understands the new rostering process, and if there's any questions, don't hesitate to speak up, I guess, or send me an email regarding any of the stuff that we spoke about tonight, and hopefully we'll be able to give you a clear answer of what that is. Stephen, Alex, anything else you'd like to add?
No, nothing from me. I think it's just if anyone did have any questions regarding the presentation and specifically the rules which we have touched on, or even anything else which hasn't been touched in this meeting, please speak up now because fortunately in this chat we do have a lot of very knowledgeable water polo people. So if you've got a question, this is the perfect time.
Alex, can I make a comment, please? Just one. You were speaking about red cards earlier and the penalties that go along with it. As young, inexperienced referees, I think we need to, on that form, give them the opportunity to reflect on what happened and decide whether maybe themselves or the other referee had some way of causing the end result. And I don't think the referee should be penalised for it, but I think for us to make right decisions, I think we need a self-reflection from the referees. You know, I've been on many of the judiciaries, And when a referee or a player says to me, who's being charged with elbowing accidentally or whatever it may be, that there were 14 changes in possession, but no foul. So I think after a game in that situation, a referee might think about it and say, well, realistically, how can there be 14 changes of possession and no foul? So I think the referees should be given the option to maybe reflect on what happened, what the situation was. And even though they're given the red card, they might say to themselves, well, I should have blown a major foul after 2 changes of possession. And I didn't blow it, and there was 14. So I don't think it's a penalising thing for the referee, but maybe it puts a perspective on what actually was the outcome. And I'd love to see referees, because referees make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Andrew still makes mistakes. I make heaps of them. But to reflect and write it down, I think is a big bonus in a situation like that. Leave 3 lines at the top of the form. That's the first thing they do before they go through the incident. And if there was nothing they did, well, they just cross it off. But I think it will help.
Yeah, we can add that to the form.
Yeah.
With that, we are looking at options to get that report online, so it's a much easier submission through as well. But I'll keep you updated on that one as we find out the best way to make it work. Look, it's tough, I guess, to reflect on all these rules when we haven't seen a water polo game for quite some time due to COVID. But the positive thing is we're looking good to get started again come October. So I think it's important that we as referees help each other out, ask questions, because if you have a question, it's very likely another referee is asking the same question so that we can get the answers out there, we can get the information out to you so you feel confident coming into games to know you can referee to your current skill level and hopefully improve that skill level throughout the season. So rollover happens Monday night. That's when our referee club will become live and becomes a member of that club so that we can streamline this communication and keep everyone up to date, and hopefully down the track have a few more social events outside of just refereeing games or refereeing competitions and events, because you're more than just a Balmain or West or Newcastle player who also referees. You are a player. For most of you, you're a player and a referee, or just referee. And we want to make that distinction and know that you have the support as you do as a player to be a referee. That's all from me. So unless there's any last questions, we'll let you go back to enjoying your Thursday night.
Nice.
Just before you go. Sorry, you going, Andrew? Or?
No, you can go first.
I was just going to suggest what we talk about at every championship is that when the competition's about to start or sometime between now and then, can everybody make sure they have a read of the rules? Just to remind yourselves of some of those little things that occasionally come up during a game, and that you are ready with your interpretation of what you're supposed to do in those circumstances.
Yeah.
It just helps to read the rules at least once a season before the start is a very good time.
Could it possibly be added into that referee hub that is going live on Monday, that occasionally you pose some questions on there for referees to come back, so it can actually invoke a group discussion about it? I think that'd be good, because I know when we go away to carnivals, it's great when we can come back after the day and sit down and have a chat about certain rules, because I think that's where a lot of the learning happens. So if we have that opportunity on the referee hub, I think that'll be great, particularly for the younger ones. And then perhaps they might get a little bit more confident in putting their hand up and asking the questions about the rules.
Yep, that sounds like a good idea, Gail. Zoe did have a comment here of who currently is in the role of helping referees progress through different stages. This is fortunately a multi-stage question. Best thing to do, if you think you're ready to go up to that next level, you need to let Scott know. Scott will then streamline it, get all the information together. Tracy is in charge of the online component, the eTrainView component of the process, but the practical assessments will get booked in through Scott. So the two people, key one is if you think you're ready to go to that next level, contact Scott because he will get all the information and provide the feedback you need to either get the process going or know what you need to work on or get done to make it to that next level.
Sorry, it's Andrew. My last comment was going to be a follow-on from Ken. Given that we've had 6 to 7 months off by the time we get back into it, I think it's important that we all refresh ourselves on the entire rulebook. And not only that, but log on to the FINA website and have a look at the FINA manual. It's got some of the clarifications around some of the rules as well. And also get along to as many training games, training sessions, training games that you can before the season starts, because the players are going to be back in the water and you don't want your first game to be the first weekend back. Even if it's just a 10-minute training session of extra man practice, just something to get back used to being on the pool deck again, blowing the whistle and getting your timing right. Timing's the hardest thing to get right and it takes the longest to get it back. That's my only advice for the upcoming season.
Okay, to answer Bruno's question, are there any changes with COVID social distancing poolside? The referees and players aren't impacted there. The bench is still allowed to sit next to each other on pool deck. Referee allowed to move up and down. In the stands, spectators, unless they live in the same house, need to be separated 1.5 metres. This is as much of the pool's responsibility as it is to our responsibility to ensure that's happening. There should be mostly space because under the current rules that go through to September 30th, only one parent or guardian is allowed per household to be in the stands, and we're encouraging that there aren't any parents or guardians in the stands to try and lower any risk of COVID affecting water polo and having to change how we play during summer. Each pool, each venue will have a COVID safety plan with their club, with Water Polo New South Wales and with the venue. These will be available poolside and they'll be available to the referees before you go to that venue. So the best thing to do when you get to that pool, read the COVID safety plan, understand what the conditions are of using the venue for players, spectators, volunteers, staff and officials. We'll all be there. Matt, Facebook group. We want to give this club a go first. The more, I guess, platforms we have for information, the more information gets lost and different information gets put up. So we can look at it going forward. We're going to try with using this club and the communication channels available with Rev Sport, and we'll go from there.
Guys, thanks so much for putting this on tonight. I think it's a great step forward because we're all keen to improve the level of refereeing across the state, but also to give everyone that opportunity to recognise that a referee pathway is as good as a player pathway, and that there's great rewards at the end of it. So thanks so much for putting it out there. And to all those out there, particularly the younger ones, don't hesitate to contact Scotty or the likes of Andrew and Michael, even Phil, who I know is there somewhere, in relation to rules and things that happen during the games. They're there to milk all their information and experience from, so you're mad not to do it.
Thanks for that, Gail. Yeah, if anyone else has anything else to say, go ahead.
Oh, my way. Scott, Stevie, and Alex, well done tonight. There's a good package put together. Thanks for doing
Thanks,
it.
Michael. Cheers.
Thank
No
you,
worries, guys.
everyone.